Edwin Harold James, Lance Weremy, Kion Man, Hannah, Green Health, everybody. I want to say thank you. And to you. Sebastian is joining me from Argentina. Lawrence Weremy is joining from Canada. Green Health, you haven't said, but I want to believe it's from Nigeria, right? Alemanda. Good morning to you too. And every single person who's listening to me live on the local, transmission station, 93.7, that is. I may not be able to call every one of your name, but it's really great to have you join me today. All right, so between now and top of the hour, 8 o'clock, I'll be taking you around Africa. Very quick trip to know what is happening. Texas, Tyler from Texas. Green Health says, yes, she's joining me from Lagos. Great to know. Okay, so as I said, between now and top of the hour, 8 o'clock, I'll be taking you around Africa, bringing you news stories of what's happening around you. And then top of the hour, 8 o'clock, we'll be switching things up, focusing our, attention to what's happening around Nigeria. So the U.S. aid situation going on, are you hearing about it? There are, fingers pointed and accusations and counter-accusations. There's this Boko Haram controversy going on. There are allegations that U.S. aid may or may not have sponsored Boko Haram in Nigeria. Whether or not that is true is yet to be seen because there have been denials. Some people have said, oh, no, that's not true. You cannot say whether or not that happened. And anyway, we'll keep tabs, We will follow that story very well because we know the effect that Boko Haram has had on Nigeria so far. And we're also hearing from Canada that Delta Airlines have offered about $30,000 compensation to the Toronto crash survivors. All of these and more we'll be, looking at when we get to top of the hour, 8 o'clock. But because it is just about time for news around Africa, let's go now to Kenya. What is happening there? So, a lawmaker in Kenya has been charged with forging academic certificates. It was just yesterday that this announcement was made. George Koimburi, he's a member of parliament for Juja constituency. He's facing 6 charges, and 3 of them are related to alleged forgery. It tagged it as allegedly falsifying academic documents. And the other 3 charges are for presenting them as genuine, forged, and presented. Anyway, so far so good. He has pleaded not guilty and he was released on cash bail. But prosecutors are claiming that he forged his high school certificate and 2 university course participation certificates. Now, the thing is, it does sound like it's not ideal, right, under normal circumstances. But under Kenyan law, parliamentary candidates must have completed high school. Perhaps that may have been the encouragement to do this. But whatever the case, it is not enough excuse to have done what he did. But whether or not this will be forgiven, well, he has to be guilty before he's forgiven, right? We'll get to see all of that. Well, cases of politicians presenting fake academic credentials are not very uncommon in a lot of African countries. We've had our fair share from here in Nigeria, where we've even had some public office holders come out and say point blank that, yes, I did. And the only honorable thing to do right now is to just resign. And they do resign at the end of the day. Anyway, love and light. To other matters now, we know that there's been a lot of back and forth with the situation in South Africa and U.S. decisions on a lot of things going on in the country right now. Anyway, the latest is that South Africa is preparing to host foreign ministers from the G20 countries. All right. But we're hearing that U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has said that he will not be attending the meeting. And all of this back and forth, the strained relationship between South Africa and USA may not be unrelated to the, new policies and executive orders that, have been coming in or have been churning out from the White House since Trump became president. The Secretary of State, that is Marco Rubio, has criticized the country's policies and he called them anti-American. And because of that, he will not be attending the G20 summit, so to say. He will not be attending that meeting. Anyway, just so you know, this is the very first meeting of foreign ministers from the G20 group of major economies since South Africa took over its presidency in December last year. Anyway, the G20, according to what reports are saying, is a voluntary membership grouping. So if an important country like the US looks like it's not participating, it is not looking good at all. Professor Daniel Bradlow says it's actually a negative sign. Professor Daniel Bradlow is a senior research fellow at the Center for Advancement of Scholarship at the University of Pretoria. Anyway, let's see how this pans out. It was just last week, right? Yeah, it was just last week that I brought the story here. I talked about it here, that Donald Trump and his administration are cutting aid and assistance that are going to South Africa, saying that the Afrikaners, who are descendants of, Dutch colonial settlers in South Africa, were being targeted by new laws that allow the government to, expropriate private land. In fact, there were street protests to that effect. People, these Africans came out in solidarity and said, hey, US, we support your decision. There's a lot of, new reformed, pardon me, I'm trying to get the right phrase now. Newly improved slavery going on in South Africa, according to the Afrikaans in the area. So these are just ripple effects that we're seeing. As I told you, when this whole brouhaha started about a week or two ago, I said we'll be keeping tabs on the story. So yes, the move, the whole cutting aid to HIV victims in South Africa, we saw that. The whole will not be attending G20 meeting, we also saw that. And of course, the president, Cyril Ramaphosa, has tried to explain that, hey, this may not be exactly what it's looking like, but the U.S. is saying this is their decision. These anti-American policies will not be taken with our backs on the ground. Okay. Whew. Again, another story we'll be keeping tabs on. We will not just let what is going on in Sudan and in some other parts of Africa just lie as that, because there are concerns. There are reports from Sudan that are centered around gross human rights violations and abuses. And the United Nations Human Rights Office has decided to say, hey, we need to be careful of the situation going on, because the continued and deliberate attacks on civilians and civilian objects should not be taken lightly, because if it escalates beyond this point, we will not like the effect. Well, Ravina Shamdasani, who is a spokesperson of OHCHR is the Human Rights Office of the United Nations. So hear her, she speaks.
Sexual violence and other violations and abuses underscore the utter failure by both parties to respect the rules and principles of international humanitarian and human rights law.
In the country, in South Sudan at this time, and a lot of attention is being drawn to these countries, because wherever there's civil unrest, we'll know that the women and children would be the biggest bearers of the brunt of such situations.
It's escalated further with ongoing battles in multiple hotspots. Regrettably, civilians continue to bear the brunt of the escalating violence.
Anyway, that was Lei Hong, who is the let me get that very quickly. Lei Hong is head of the UN Human Rights Office in Sudan, and that was how you just heard a minute ago. Anyway, Al-Katim, one of the health facilitators in the country, says the continued and deliberate attacks on civilians and civilian objects, as well as summary executions, sexual violence, and other violations and abuses, that it underscores the utter failure by both parties to respect the rules and principles of international humanitarian and human rights law. And some of these acts may even amount to war crimes. They may be investigated promptly and independently with a view to bringing those responsible to justice once and for all. End of quote. I'm always talking about the effect of these and how that in the end, the people is what matters. Anyway, so we saw not so great report from Mali about the death of some people in a mining situation. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? I believe it was yesterday. Anyway, there's an update on that story. So Canadian miner Barrick Gold, he has signed a new agreement with the Malian government, and this is aimed at ending a dispute over the mining assets in the country. So some mining activities in Mali have been tagged illegal. But with this agreement now, we're seeing that this would put a lot more sanity to what is going on in the country. And of course, it would even give, further shape to the mining sector in Mali. Kudos on that one. Time for a very quick break. When we come back, more stories coming your way. Thank you very much for all of your messages so far on YouTube. Let me run through them very quickly as I can. Israel Moreno, thank you. Joy Onyechi, yes, I am on radio. You're watching on YouTube, and I'm also on radio. The frequency is 93.7, and the station is Citizen FM, and we are in Abuja. Alemanda, yes, I am on radio too. So those who are watching on YouTube, they're wondering about, yes, I'm on radio. All right, and Daisy Charm, good to have you join in, saying hi. Kajung Wizard, thank you very much from Texas. How are you doing? How is Texas right now? Hope you guys are doing great. I'll be back in a bit. Stay with our Citizen FM 93.7. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up as you join us on YouTube, and also hit the subscribe button. I'll be back soon.
Hello, Abuja. You are listening to 93.7 Citizen FM, the latest radio station based in Nigeria's capital. Our station seeks to broadcast a broad mix of culture and views with priority given to development programming to enable residents share ideas and opinions, music and drama. At Citizen FM, we believe in progressive talk and solution-driven conversation. Our aim is to build a united Nigeria by bringing people of diverse culture together through communication. Enjoy listening to 93.7 Citizen FM. We are more than just a radio station. We are a part of your life.
So now let's head on to Egypt very quickly from other parts of Africa. Let's just see what we can get out of Egypt and then call it a wrap on this 30 minutes news around Africa segment before we head to the newspaper headlines across Nigeria. So Egypt is developing a plan to rebuild Gaza without forcing Palestinians out of the Strip. And of course, we know that this is not in tandem with Donald Trump's proposal. Donald Trump's proposal is to actually depopulate the territory so that the country can take over. Said he wants to bring in development to the area, and all of that. We saw Jordan earlier. In fact, I played it right here on Citizen FM, the voice of the Jordan PM, where he was trying to explain that, for that moment or for the period, that we're going to make available resources that would cater to women and children that may be displaced from the Gaza area. Anyway, Egypt is not left out because they too are also part of the conversation. So they're making plans. Egypt's state-run Al-Ram newspaper said that the proposal calls for establishing secure areas within Gaza. Again, this is not what Trump is saying. It's a contrast. So they're saying that within Gaza, they would establish secure areas where Palestinians can live initially, while Egyptians and international construction firms remove and also try to rehabilitate the Strip's infrastructure. There have been discussions so far. There have been discussions. Egyptian officials have been, discussing the plan with European diplomats as well as with Saudi Arabia. They're talking with Qatar. They're talking with UAE as well. UAE, that would be Dubai, Sharjah, Abu Dhabi and all whatnot. Just needed to clarify that. So they're also discussing ways to fund the restructuring and the reconstruction, including an international conference on Gaza restructuring and reconstruction. That's what one of the Egyptian officials have said so far. Anyway, let's see how this would go. If this move, which is a direct contrast from what Donald Trump is planning, would be, accommodated, or if he's going to insist on something entirely different. We'll see. We'll keep tabs on the story. And still in Egypt, we're hearing that Egypt has announced the first discovery of Pharaoh's tomb in more than 100 years. In over 100 years, they're announcing the very first discovery of Pharaoh's tomb. So it was a joint Egyptian-British mission that identified an ancient tomb near Luxor as that of King Thutmose II, marking the very first discovery of a Pharaonic royal tomb in more than 100 years. This is the report coming in from the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities from Egypt. Anyway, just to give you a backstory of this Thutmose II's tomb, it was the last tomb of the king of Egypt's 18th dynasty, and it was the very first royal tomb that was discovered since King Tutankhamun's tomb that was discovered in 1922. This is according to the ministry still. Anyway, archaeologists were also able to identify the tomb due to alabaster vessels that were found on site, and it was inscribed with the name of the king himself and his wife, Queen Hatshepsut, one of those small handful of women to have ruled Egypt. When we talk about rulers of Egypt, I know Queen Nefertiti comes to mind and some other popular names. But guess what? We also have some of them, a handful of them, who also did significant stuff. Anyway, that was not all they found. They also found pieces of his funerary furniture, as well as pieces of mortar with blue inscriptions, yellow stars, religious writing, all of this. Anyway, have happened. The tomb was generally not well preserved, and there were indications that most of its contents may have been moved. And there are cultural and historical, wealth. So hearing something like this is just fantastic news. I just hope that this will be preserved, and I don't know, I'm not even Egyptian, but this kind of just excites me. It's just great stuff. Anyway, it's on that note we'll be rounding off news from across Africa at this time. Thank you very much for staying with us. Olaiwola Susan, thank you very much. Thank you. Olaiwola Susan is enjoining people to double tap on on the screen to get people to like the live stream. I'm grateful for that. Olaiwola is my YouTube friend. Never met in person, but she's been a fantastic one. Thank you. I appreciate you, my dear friend and sister, Olaiwola Susan. Joy rather. Let me see if I can get a better visual from here. Yeah, Onyinyechi. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, people, I'll be back top of the hour, 8 o'clock with newspaper headlines from across Africa. Usual suspects we have this morning. We have Daily Sun, New Telegraph, Leadership, Nigerian Tribune, Daily Trust, Vanguard, Punch, Nigerian News Direct, Blueprint. We always got you. When it comes to news paper headlines, we have like a lot of papers. And of course, not forgetting pen pushing media. We also have update from them. So stay with us. I'll be back in a bit to take you through what's happening around Nigeria at this time.
Need a lift? Feeling low, bored, or confused?
Wants your dream to brightly glow?
Here is what to do.
Women's Corner is waiting just for you.
Education, work, lifestyle, career, mentorship, and family too.
We will tackle the issues, provide solutions, and see you through. Finding your voice, reaching high, and making an impact. Women's Corner, where knowledge can